Welcome back to another episode of Elevated Dialogue here on the Uncle Junior Network. I go by the name of Uncle Junior, and with me today are today's Wolfpack members, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only mindset coach himself, Mr. Dwayne Dwyer, the other artist, Antoine Christopher, Victor, Women Have No Code, Buy My Books, all the above, Viziant, across the table, beside the table, under the table, and above the table with Chris. And ladies and gentlemen, back with us again, the man with the hat, Big John Stud. How's everybody doing today? And welcome to the show. Um, Welcome to the show, every one of you who have decided to take time out of your lives to be with us tonight. I appreciate you and welcome to the most elevated chat on YouTube. That is where the real dialogue is happening. So feel free to be part of it, of the conversation over there, ask a question or something like that. Maybe we'll get around to it. I want to give a special thanks to all of our servicemen and women who are out there doing what they do to keep us safe. We salute you and thank you for your service. If you're tuned in today, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. While you're at it, go ahead and hit that bell so you will be notified of new contact. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing today?
I'm well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Man,
Y'all have a good Christmas if y'all
Mhm.
celebrate Christmas or
Yep,
family
yep.
time or anything like that.
Man, what we got like 72 hours left in this year?
That's
crazy.
about it, man. That's about it.
I ain't worried about
Yeah.
Christmas, man. My birthday right around the corner.
Man,
Yeah,
mine's
yeah,
too.
that's
When's your
right.
birthday?
Couple more days.
Friday.
Hey, Coach, what are you drinking? What are you drinking, Coach? What is that?
See,
That
that's
apple
why I
juice.
do that because all
Hey,
y'all
look,
think I be on here drinking liquor.
Ain't
I
none of
brought
your
it here.
Ain't mind your business. Ain't nobody else
Yeah,
asked
exactly.
about
I
what's in
brought
his
it
cup.
here.
Coach.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go, man. We grown
Ain't
on here,
mind
right?
your business.
I
boy.
am drinking ginger ale, by the way. I want to make
Like,
sure
man,
I
I'm
say
just trying to drink a little ginger ale, man, and that's
That's
it.
how you know Antoine miss you when he starts.
Giving him a
Hey,
hard
man, I miss
time.
Antoine too, bro. I be seeing him on Friday night. I be kind of busy working the magic though. But I got you,
Yeah.
brother.
Hey, I know that's right, man. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate y'all being on here, man. We're gonna get right into it, man. Hold on real quick. Let me bring somebody up real quick. Add them to the stream.
He is.
Pastor Smith, welcome
Uh-oh.
back, man. How are you
What's up,
doing
bro?
today?
I'm good, sir. How are y'all? I'm good.
Doing
Oh,
well,
man.
man. How was your holiday? I asked everybody else, but since you
Man.
just popped in.
Eventful. I'm glad it's over.
Okay.
I'm glad it's over. Eventful.
He said enough said, right?
Enough said.
All right. Hey, look, balancing time in a relationship can be a challenge, especially when you have other commitments and responsibilities to attend to. It is natural to wonder how much time you should be spending with your partner, and the answer will likely vary depending on your individual circumstances and needs. One key factor to consider is communication. It is important to talk openly and honest with your partner about your expectations and desires when it comes to time spent together. You may find it helpful to set boundaries and establish clear guidelines for dividing your time between your relationship and other commitments. Other im- Another important aspect of balancing time in a relationship is finding activities you both enjoy and can do together. This can help you make the most of the time you have together and can also help strengthen your bond. It is also important to remember that quality time is often more important than quantity. Instead of stressing about how much time you spend together, focus on making the time you have together meaningful and enjoyable. In conclusion, find the right balance of time in a relationship takes effort and communication. By being open and honest with your partner and making the most out of the time you have together, you can build a healthy, fulfilling relationship. What do y'all think about that? I know there was a lot.
I think it's a general healthy start. I mean,
Yeah.
I think any baseline is better than no baseline. We already been winging it all our lives.
Yeah.
Why? Let's not intentionally wing it when we know better. You know what I'm saying? I already saw
Yeah.
enough outcomes to feel like maybe we should try it a different way.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm gonna start off with the first question. This is more so speaking to the people who are in relationships, but I think at the same time, if you have been in a relationship, you can still add some sort of value or talking point speaking from a past experience or something like that. So I put it at the bottom of the screen. So how do you and your partner currently balance your time between your relationship and other commitments? And I also want to talk about maybe what some of those other commitments are too. I think that's important.
I jump on the grenade first.
Okay.
So I know we already kind of discussed me not being in a relationship, but I'll say I know being an entrepreneur, a lot of things consume our time with business and pursuing different opportunities. So I think one of the most important things is having a good line of communication. If you got a good line of communication, time can it can not be a factor, but then at the same time it'll be a factor. It's just one of those things that you have to discuss and be open about what's going on, what you got going on. Your partner has to be understanding about it, especially if you're an entrepreneur. I know working a job can be busy as well, but when you're an entrepreneur, it's like we don't really have a shutoff time. It's 25/8. It ain't 24/7.
Yeah, and Vic, so you're an entrepreneur and have been for a while, and you are in a relationship. So I want to throw you on the spot, throw you on the bus, but at the same time, I think you can add a lot of value to this conversation as well.
Man, I tell you, it's a moving target, and I think that to speak from the entrepreneurial perspective is that you have to accept that you're moody too. So like what spaces that significant other has and where they can fit in changes, based off of you, especially she respecting the leadership, what I'm saying, that you got going on. You're gonna make different adjustments, you're gonna be in different zones about decision making, especially it depends on how involved you are in your business. I think that also equates to having realistic expectations about time spent, and on top of that, you got to really set hard boundaries, because like when you're an entrepreneur, a lot of people waste your time, man. A lot of people do a lot of pump faking, talking, vacuuming up your time and resources, and you have very little return on investment on that. Maybe not necessarily in whatever time frame it is, but you just got to be careful of how much energy you give certain people. And um, you know, I think that that's when, as an entrepreneur, I think you get better when you actually have to take in what your mate is saying about you firsthand, because they're not there to help you fail if you invited them into your space. So I think that becomes um, in my own personal journey, becomes a leadership call, and knowing that, hey, man, I don't have to be, you know what I'm saying, as involved with some things, or maybe I just need to structure myself better so I can create better gaps, for filling in the blanks with, whatever it might be. It might be a surprise dinner, some unplanned time off together, some other function. You gotta leave room for to have the element of surprise in your relationship as well as your business too. You know what I'm saying? So you either creating problem solutions or opportunities, man, with whatever experience that you get. So, hopefully, as an entrepreneur, if there's somebody else is listening to me, understand that this is an enduring struggle. And treat it as though it has to become a practice, just like it's a perishable skill, and I got to learn that too.
Yeah, yeah, I get all of that, man. I think, I'm in a relationship and I'm managing time as well with my wife, and I think one of the big things that works for us is, first of all, is having the open communication about um what we have on our schedules. Like she has access to my calendar, so if there's something on my calendar, what I mean, and she wanted to do something, like where she know if I got a training session or something like that, she either, we either book at a different time, or if it's something she wanted to do, then we'll make a compromise. But I think that, you both have to look at, everybody's commitments, and then have a constructive conversation that's well thought out and in depth about exactly, what I mean, balancing that time between the two. Anybody else?
I think everybody pretty much hit it on the head. I have had issues in the past because I work a lot. Like my life schedule is I'm from 3 a.m. till about 9:30. I'm into something. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's looking at the charts because I'm getting into the markets and learning how to trade, going to the gym, working 10 hours a day, and then coming home 5-6 days a week. Most of my time is occupied, but I do make it a point to use that one day to relax and to try to spend time with whoever I'm dating at the time. Sometimes that's not enough. And I guess I got to be cool with that because I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing because I have to do what I got to do. You understand what I'm saying? So I have difficulty doing that. So this is probably going to be one of those shows where I listen because I want to learn how to balance. Or if it's even worth balancing, because sometimes I'm only speaking for me. This is anecdotal, but a lot of the relationships that I've been in, the women that I've dated have been upset that I'm occupying time that isn't about them. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing just because you're complaining about me being busy when you met me busy. You understand what I'm saying? And me being busy was probably what attracted you to me in the first place, because if I was sitting doing nothing, you wouldn't even look my way. So
that's that good communication.
Hey, and that's why I say, you remember we talked about having thick skin?
Yeah, I remember that.
You're supposed to have thick skin because she's not saying it from an unhealthy place. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to have a little bit more patience if that's somebody that is your right hand, But if it's somebody you dating in a 50-50, transactional type of, like involvement, like if you're negotiating time with each other at that point, then you may be requesting too much. That person may be requesting too much. So I can understand what you're saying. So, but yeah, some people can meet you busy, but sometimes you're going to meet somebody that changes you in a better direction too. You know what I'm saying? If you both are bringing an open, like a opportunity for each other to grow together. You know what I'm saying? So like in healthy relationships where work is, like kind of on the fulcrum, like it's the balance point or whatever, and it's a different conversation than somebody just dating.
I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to say it like this.
Uh-oh.
So we all have lives.
Oh, shit.
Right? And we all do what we need to do. I am not putting that at risk for no woman, nobody else but me. I'm coming home to what I love. I like to do what I love. I like to have what I have. I like to go where I want to go. I base my time around this. I got a mortgage. I got car payments. I got things that take way priority over you because I can't take love to the bank. So you're going to come after all of that because I like the roof over my head. I like to go on vacation when I want to go on vacation, and I like to spoil you when I can spoil you. But a man has to take care of his business first. In his personal life, my girl will never come first in my professional life, ever.
You sound like a strong, independent caddy.
She will never.
Holy shit!
It's two different things, right?
You started that.
No, it's two different things. You guys are sounding like some pussified men saying that because it's two different things. In my professional life, she will never come first. Right? She will never come first in my professional life because she can't help me with what I do. Right? So in my professional life, she comes. In my personal life, she comes first because it's a totally different thing, totally different area. But I have to take care of business first. I have to take care of what I'm supplying, what I'm doing, everything I'm maintaining. That money has to come in for me to maintain that. She can't help me in that area. She could probably contribute and probably give a little something. She can cook and maybe, with my pots and stuff. Fine.
Pastor, you're going to have to just jump in here. Otherwise, he ain't going to stop.
I feel like I'm raising my hand.
But she can do all that. But you guys, I'm being serious. You guys, you guys are sounding like some pussified men up there. You got to handle your business. After you handle your business, she can come in. You know what? Because going on vacation, gas, heat, things you want to do, clothing, costs money. And I'm not going to jeopardize the lifestyle I live now just because I'm with somebody. If anything, she's going to add to it. And she's going to benefit from it. And when she benefits from it, I don't want to hear no complaints about it, because that's what my life is. You're coming into what is. I am not going into yours, because you will never get that. You unless you want to take over everything I'm doing.
But everybody's got a different perspective.
Well,
That's what I'm saying. That's how I would manage. Time management is handle your business first. As a man, handle your business first. Don't cry about it later because you went on a vacation you couldn't afford because she needed to get a break.
I got. So I guess my question to you, Antoine, is not, and maybe I just want to make sure I'm clear, right? I understand you about your paper. I understand in your professional life, but I think, and like in my mind, I'm trying to figure out what I think Unc is talking about, or what this is how do you balance that time that you give to her and that time that you give to work? Like when you get into that relationship, is it still, are you still going, let's just say, and I think you're an artist, right? You're an artist in the recording studio or something. What is it that you do again?
I'm a visual artist.
Oh,
a visual artist.
Okay. So let's say you work 10 hours a day.
Right.
And you work doing, I'm guessing like your peak times is what?
Every morning, every evening, every afternoon, everything. I just get up and do what I need to do. I have a deadline. I have deadlines that I need to meet.
Okay. So you doing everything you're doing, and you meet this woman, and now she's like, hey, we need to spend some time together. She's not trying to take or replace. Let me say this. She's not trying to replace your professional life. She's trying to figure out where she can fit in at. I guess my question is, or what the question is, how are you going to try to balance that?
Well, there's nothing to balance. There's really nothing to balance. You have to wake up, handle your business, and then when you're done with handling it, however long that may take, she gets what's left. That's how it is.
Let me jump in there. Let me jump in there for a second.
I mean, what is it?
I see what Pastor's saying. This is the thing. Antoine, everybody has their own perspective, but the reality of any relationship is this: there's value added there's supposed to be value added by your partner. So I get that
value added where
in the relationship, but
not in your work day, right? Because I don't
can't say that. You can't say that because
I just want to know where the value is added.
Value can be added anywhere. Here, the reality is this: you can have a woman to come in your life, and she may be able to show you something that you don't see. You don't see everything. Nobody sees everything. So
in what, my professional life?
Of course.
Oh hell no! She can't do nothing with
it. Hey, real quick. Hey, hold up. Hey, before we spin off too far off subject, I want to get back to the question. So, Antoine, to your talking point, and then what Pastor was
to my talking point, I handle business.
How do you balance that? How do you balance the two?
I would say I handle everything I need to handle within the day, doing everything I need to do, balancing this, going there, handling all my errands, working, drawing, painting, whatever I need to do. And then after, when I come home, whatever's left is yours. Like, what do you want to do? You want to see? I always believe during the week, I don't need the I love yous. I don't need all that coochie woochie hully. I don't want any of that. I need to do what I need to do. When I come home, bombard me with it. On the weekends, I'm all yours. What do you want to do? You want to go shopping? I'll tolerate all that sort of woman stuff, right? But when I have to handle business during the week and make sure everything's taken care of, when I come home, that's when you. So if I have a 10-hour day, that's how it is. You're after that. You're after what I maintain. You will never come in between. And you don't need to tell me you love me. I'll show you every night. Don't worry about it. We're good.
If I may, I speak Antoine very well. So let me and I wanna kind of say it this way. I think what we have to understand is that every relationship involves it is a necessity to have conversation before we get too deep into what this relationship looks like, right? So we need to establish what are priorities in this life. Like, we need to understand where this relationship is going. Like, what's the vision of the relationship first and foremost, right? Once we establish this vision, then we can establish priorities within the scope of that vision. Once we establish those priorities, then we can easily identify needs, and we can easily identify wants. Wants are sacrificial. I think that's a given without anything. Wants are sacrificial. So under the scope of the vision of the relationship, and we understand priorities drives decisions within the scope of that relationship. Here's the truth. I'll be honest with you. If I'm in a relationship, I need for you to periodically go spend time with your girlfriends. That's a need for me because we need that space. I'm gonna go spend some time with my dudes as well. We need that space. Those are healthy relationships under the umbrella of our relationship. And those relationships support our relationship. When it comes time for us to spend time together, that should be cyclical. There should be an understanding within the scope of that relationship of when we're spending time together and what we're doing. If it's Friday night, date night, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because that may fit both of our schedules. We can't compromise work. If we're an entrepreneur, I'll be honest with you, I believe all entrepreneurs, if you're in a relationship, you need to work with your wife. Like your wife need to be a part of your relationship. That's spending time together. When I need to vet ideas off of somebody, I am vetting it off of my partner, my business partner, and my life partner. I think that's an essential task. I'm not saying those of you who don't, bring your wife into your bring your wife into your business. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's a different method. But under that scope, we're working together, we're spending time together, we're vetting ideas off of one another. We are driving the development of the organization and again, this is for entrepreneurs. If we work, obviously, we're away from one another at least 8 hours a day. So do we talk periodically throughout the day? Do we communicate with one another? On my lunch break, am I picking up the phone call and see how our day is going? Am I taking her lunch? Is she coming over to my office? Are we eating lunch together? Like, what does that look like? I think those things are necessary. So again, because like I said, I speak Antoine very well. So we just have to get to the point to where, number one, we have a clear understanding of what this relationship is doing. And then under that, we have priorities, and those priorities drive decision making. Balancing from one relationship to another looks different. It's not a seesaw. It's not a perfect balance, right? So we have to understand that there is no such thing as equality in a relationship. I've been saying that for years, and I'm gonna continue to say it. No such thing as equality, but there is balance. Balance is key, and when we understand that, I think that helps. I think my man Walter brought up love languages. Y'all know how I'm about love languages, right? Because I got it. Love languages have been taught from the wrong perspective. Because if we go by virtue of how that's taught, that teaches manipulation. So just because I am an expert in my particular love language because it works for me, and I tell you, say, hey, I am the one, and my love language is physical touch. That means that every time that you come around me, I'm expecting you to put your hands on me. No, we got to work out our own salvation in fear and trembling. Therefore, the only person that I can change is this person right here. So if I understand that physical touch is my dominant love language, then I need to apply necessary time to build up the other ones. Therefore, whatever one that you're skilled in communicating with, I can meet there. So I think that's important to understand, not shooting at what Walter's saying, because I understand what he's saying. And I've read the book, and I looked up, I researched, and I even talked, to other people in relation to it. But we got to get out of the mindset of manipulating people for the sake of what benefits us.
I agree with that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm gonna say something real quick. Who on here, right? And because I'm learning everybody, right? And when Unc called me with this, I said, it's gonna be crazy for me to tackle this topic because one, on the business side, I work for my wife. My wife is one of the only Black take it back. Let me make sure I'm correct. Her company, because my sister is a twin, right? They're the only Black minority female licensed general contractors here in Atlanta. It's not that many, right? So they've been in business for over 25 years. I am her project manager. So we work together on that. Our roles reverse because when we at work, we got a very clear understanding. She'll fire me. And I won't feel nothing bad about it because I'm not going to come in and take anything away from the company. So if anything, I'm gonna go over and beyond because I want to make sure that the company is good, but most importantly, she's good. Because if she has a bad day at work, it really, and people say it does and it should, but it does. The fact of the matter, it does. It runs over into the house and the kids and to me and everybody. It does. It's the nature of the beast. If somebody tell you that they don't, they're lying, right? So now that's one aspect. The second aspect of my balancing act is I'm a pastor full time. So when we flip, I have to go be pastor. She has to be first lady. So now it's like, hold on, we got dynamic where we changing roles at. Because now when we go to the church, she like, okay, pastor, whatever you want to do. I ask her opinion. She's involved, but she's not that traditional. Like you won't find her on the front row. You won't find her wearing a big hat. You won't find her there. You won't do that. But she's in the audience. You see what I'm saying? She's there. And if anybody that knows my wife and knows her, they'll know that, hey, she's here. She might not be on that front row with him and she might not, but First Lady is here. Believe that. Now, third balancing act is when you come home. Now we got to deal with house, bills, kids, schedules, their schedules, our schedules. So I get everything of what all you guys are saying, will say, but I promise you, this conversation for me, like I told, is going to be very difficult because I'm living 2 or 3 different balancing acts every single day. We do go to lunch together, Dr. Dwayne. We do go to lunch together because we have to talk about what's going on at work.
That's decentralized leadership, brother.
It's
decentralized leadership. Like you got to know when to lead and when to follow, and when go where efficiency makes sense. If the company was already put together, you showing great leadership by saying, you know what, let me take this role right here because I can still support, I can still contribute. Correct. I got value to add to the situation.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Versus sitting back and then trying to play, like a role of maybe. Some people will probably say it's simp behavior. Somebody will say that's not alpha or whatever they want to call it. Right. But you know what it really is? It's accountable masculinity. You see what I'm saying? It's more important to be accountable for what your role is in your relationship than to fit what other people's definitions might be.
Correct.
Period. Like if it works for what you got going on and you could put some brackets around it to capture what your role is, everything that you're talking about reflects positively on your mate. So right. You're doing the role of an accountable masculine by being in place to support your wife. You know what I'm saying? Because correct. she got to be able to speak for you when you're absent. You should be able to reflect her in a positive light too.
Correct.
And I think that comes from having thick skin. That comes from knowing when, it's not about how you feel at this particular moment in time. It's for you to sit back and process. And then this is you getting a chance to really take a less of a responsibility. You got enough responsibility on your plate. And that's one thing we have a hard time, like being comfortable with loosening our grip on. And we got to shift from being in control to just having authority because those ain't the same things.
Correct. So that's what I was telling. It's different. So for me, and this is just for me, communication is good. Having a good line of communication is good. That's great. Love it. I don't need you to communicate with me. I need you to understand. I need you to understand what the project is. I need you to understand what our goal is. Because our communication, we can argue about what you said, what I said, what you felt, what I felt, all that. But when Escape said it perfectly, a couple of years ago, I had to look it up just to make sure. They came back and Escape said, what I need from you is understanding how can we communicate if we don't hear what I say. So you can communicate all day long, but it can be great communication, but if there's no understanding, about what you're communicating with. And I think somebody else said it. I think it was Dr. Dwayne. He said perfectly. He said, and I hope I'm giving him his credit. It's not somebody else, but he said outside of the communication that it has to be. And I just lost my train of thought. God dog it. I'm gonna get it again. But like I said, it's got to be a balancing thing.
So I think before Coach goes, I think what Pastor's speaking of, there's a difference between communication and comprehension. I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face, but if you don't get what I'm saying, then what's the point of us conversing? You have to actually get what I'm saying, and we have to come to a mutual agreement based off of what you comprehend, not what you feel or what you think I said. So I am I wrong?
No. Once again, it's correct. So the same way how he just said comprehension. You see what I'm saying? And if you look at these definitions, it's all either synonyms and very fine lines. It might be another way, one word, maybe two words that changes the definition. But if you look at, if anybody know me, I'm more of a conceptual. I'm more of a conceptual and theory thinker. I believe that if I know the theory or the concept, then I can do whatever I need to do with it to make it do. So that's why I said, it's definitely going to be, a balancing act all the way around, and then trying to find that sweet spot to find that time. It gets really tough, especially when you 25/8 on the job, and y'all know dealing with utility contracting. She has
land the plane, Pastor. Land the plane.
It's just all over. Y'all go, and I can't land it, baby. I'm just got to stay in there.
Land it, Pastor. Land it.
How about this? I'm gonna circulate and I'm gonna throw out parachutes every time y'all say something, because this hits hard for me. Because this is something that I've been trying to
Coach
do.
got you. Coach got you right now.
No,
get your notebook out.
Come on with the benediction.
No, stop it, man. Stop it.
I got my notepad.
So no, you're right, and that's why I differentiated between working and working together, right? From a entrepreneurial standpoint, because everything you say perfectly lines up with what I'm saying, what I said previously, and when you go back to what I talked about as far as having a vision for the relationship itself, and also having priorities that support that division, that drives decisions. So decisions have nothing to do with feelings, right? Feelings have nothing to do with priorities. You may not feel that the decision that we're making is the best decision, but when we go back to our priorities, when we go back to what we established for our relationship, what we said we were going to do in the beginning, does it line up? Can you objectively answer that question, yes or no? If it does, then let's set feelings aside, because your feelings only identify your comfort zone, right? Let's set that aside and let's move forward in the direction in which we plan to. So great. I mean, you're spot on, sir, and I agree with you 100% on that one.
But I just want to say this.
Hold on, Antoine. Coach, say that one more time. Say that again.
Which part, sir? Which part?
At the very end when you said feelings aren't what?
Right. So your feelings identify your comfort zone. Right. So in essence, that feeling that you get when it makes you feel uncomfortable, it's only because it's moving you outside of your comfort zone. Go back and identify the priority. Understand what you plan to do. And if it is uncomfortable, that means you're moving in the right direction. If you're comfortable within that space, that means you're in what we call complacency.
And Pastor, to your thing, I'm just saying this. I work by deadlines. I know a drawing has to be finished in 3 weeks. Really don't care what she has to do in 3 weeks. She can get me off my deadline. So there's nothing she can prioritize or you ain't seeing me for 3 weeks. I got to get it done, because that money is what I live on and what you live on. So if I have to finish something in 3 weeks, I'm not drinking Red Bull all night because you decided to take me somewhere to visit your family or anything like that. If I have to stay up late, I ain't poking you that night. I got to stay up late. You got to get over it. Next day is another day. So that, for me, that's very, very important. And if I'm doing something, that's why I said she will never come first in my professional life. She can never help me hold a pencil. She can never help me design. You know what she can help me do? Go to bed. Just let me do me. After my 3 weeks, we can talk. That's why I like career women, because they have a life, right? And then when we have kids, then we have to come up with, that's the only time we will balance out. How do we want to raise our kids? How do we want to make time for them? How do we want to operate around them? There's a significant reason for that. But when she has a life, I have a life, I'm not changing mine. I know that. So if I know I have a deadline, I have a deadline. And the only thing coming out of her mouth is respecting that deadline. That's all. Because I'm not changing it. If I have an art show and I have to exhibit 14 pieces, I have to organize for 14 pieces. She would know better because through our communication, oh man, I can't have anything to organize now because he's got 14 pieces to get done. Because we already had that discussion. That's all I'm saying.
And she won't get that little.
I get
She
that.
ain't gonna get that little poke either.
Nah, she getting that. No, I got.
Oh man! Hey,
No
What
point.
is
that all you
wrong
guys
with
took
y'all
care of,
tonight?
man?
What is happening right now?
Antoine over there having no
Before the
no
show
bill.
started talking about it.
Yeah, you missed that one, Chris.
Now everybody thinking about what he said before the show and stuff like that. So
This is the PG version though.
yeah, this is the
Ha
PG
ha
version.
ha ha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But hey, honestly, this is a good way to segue into the next conversation. Some of y'all talked about it. You know what I mean? So in what ways has finding a balance between your relationship and other commitments impacted your relationship? Like Antoine said, if he got deadlines, he got deadlines. Other people had different comments to say about this, but how has these different things finding the balance, how has it impacted? So if you've been divorced or if you're broken up, you probably have a lot of things to say about this because it probably has, time management has probably had something to do with you not being with your partner or your wife anymore. So who want to jump on this first? Chris, since your mic's unmuted.
My whole thing, like I said in the beginning, I've come across women that want me to stop what I'm doing to be up under them. And I'm like, no. So this is where I agree with Antoine. If I have things to do that can affect my livelihood, that's going to come first. I'm not going to put you before that. I can't, because me putting you before that is going to have me without a livelihood or without things that I need, like a roof over my head, like food in my refrigerator, like my lights turned on, my internet working. I can't put anybody before that. This is how my hierarchy goes. It goes me, my livelihood, my family, and then her. I can't put her before those three things. I got to take care of me. I got to make sure that my livelihood is intact so that way I'm cool. My family is going to always come before them because that's family. And then you. And it's selfish of anybody that's in a relationship to think otherwise. Why would you? So my whole thing was, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. So if I have to sacrifice you to keep going on and moving on the path that I'm going on, I'm willing to sacrifice you because you met me like this. And I'm not going to allow you to manipulate me and change me because you and your feelings about not spending time with me, when really, it's really all about me focusing on something that ain't you. You understand what I'm saying? So that's how it's affected me.
So
I'll
Chris,
mute my mic.
I'm gonna ask you a question, and I'm gonna ask, and then let me take it back. I'm asking, if I can ask this question to Chris, is
Go ahead.
the question I got is, or to all the panel, do you think it would change, the balance would change when you are in two different households versus living in one household, and then living in one household with just you and your wife or your girl, and then when y'all bring kids on? So it seems like that the balance is really going to keep changing every time that the situation go. Because like
That's
I said,
true.
because like for me, Chris, that wouldn't work for me. Like I couldn't take that note and say, well, yep, I can do that. Because I live with mine and the families are entwined and I work with mine and we go to church and everything is so.
I understand what you're saying, but here's what I'm saying. If you stop doing what you're doing because your wife is complaining about time, or if she stops doing what she's doing because you're complaining about time, something that involves your roof over your head is going to fall short. And that can't happen. That's what I'm saying. You found a way to work it out because you were smart enough to work with your wife and bring your wife into your work. So you are a cohesive unit. That's smart. And it will change when the dynamic is me in the same house with my lady.
Okay.
That will change. It has to change. But
Absolutely.
the fact still remains that I still got to keep a roof over everybody's head. I still got to keep food in the refrigerator. I still got to keep the lights on. I still got to keep gas in the cars. I still have to do the things that I'm supposed to do so that way this household can thrive. And I'm not about to stop because you're complaining about time. Because if I sacrifice my time, you're going to have to sacrifice the things that we need. And we can't do that.
I want to jump in there on something. This, I tell you, me and my pastor had a conversation today, and it's crazy that we had this conversation of some of the things that Chris said. I think we as men, and I can't speak for everybody, but it's something that me and him agreed on. We as men, when we become husbands or when we get in relationships where we're living with our partner, we tend to lose ourselves by doing the things that we're supposed to do. And it's not an intentional loss. It's just kind of, when you, especially when you put kids in the mix, careers, household, you lose yourself because you're focusing on being the provider. And sometimes you lose yourself in doing that. And going on to what Chris said, I think that's one of the issues that we definitely need to resolve within ourselves about realizing what is our path and staying on that path. Having the right partner in your life is going to speak to that. And that's why I was saying before to Antoine about when you have a partner that complements you or that brings value to your life shouldn't be moved from the path that you're on. It should actually move to a smoother path. For me, I've never been in a relationship where that happened. I've never actually been in a relationship where the path that I was on got smoother or it progressed or it got better. Everything just kind of, from my marriage to the relationships afterwards, everything just changed. Everything kind of got some, I ain't gonna say everything. Some of the things got worse. Some of the situations that I was in, some of the things that I was around got worse. But how
much of it had to do with managing you guys' time? Like, were they like, oh, you need to be around me all the time? Because I know dudes like, even my kids, man, like them jokers sit up there on the phone for 24 hours a day talking to their girl. And I'm just like, bro, how you do that? Like, what are you not doing to whereas you can sit there on the phone all day long talking to your girl? I understand we got to make space for them, but if you're on the phone with your girl for 8 hours a day, look at how much money you losing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll say this from and there's two different instances. I think in my marriage, that was one of the reasons why me and my ex-wife had problems was because when I started my barbecue business in 2016, I was cooking every weekend for a while. But before that, we were going on a trip just about every weekend. I had weekends off, so we'd take little trips going somewhere. And
do it.
When I bought my grill, I started cooking every weekend because I had clientele. I had customers that was consistently calling me saying, hey, can I get this? Can I get this? And it was large enough orders where it wasn't $40, $50 here and there. It was a couple $100. So I'm not going to turn that money down. But then at the same token, I also had a job. So I was working at the post office 5 days a week, cooking 2 days a week. And in between all of that, I did find time to spend with my kids because I was grilling at the house. So I did have time to spend with my kids. Me and my son played my PlayStation, played his Xbox. I found time to spend with them. But I got to where I was cooking every weekend because it got to where it was just me. And I don't know, I can't speak to what her issue was, but it got to where I was cooking every weekend because every weekend that I did cook, when I started off cooking every other weekend. When it got to the weekend for me to cook, she was gone. She dip out. She gone the whole day. She go back to where she from in Leeds, Alabama. She go out there with her folks and be out there, be with her sister, whatever. That situation created issues, and I'm not going to say that that's the reason why we got divorced. That played a part in it. The second situation was when I first started doing life insurance and investments. I was told by the girl that I was talking to that I think her exact words were, I wasn't making time for her. But like I said, being an entrepreneur, and if you know anything about life insurance and doing investments, you're constantly on the phone talking to people. You're constantly trying to talk to people about getting their life insurance. You're constantly talking to people about getting investments. It's it's almost a never-ending thing. The only time that you actually have free is when you shut down at night, because I mean, unless you're talking to somebody like I would do it. I would talk to people sometimes if I got partners or if I know folks that's working night shift, I might talk to them. If I might talk to them on Facebook or through text messages, we might have we might have a night shift. A night
What
shift.
is this?
Yeah, you missed the rated R version. Yeah, you missed that. We'll get back to that. But she actually told me that I wasn't giving her any time. She felt neglected. That was what she told me. She felt neglected. And it was crazy because like y'all, like Chris and Antoine, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this. I agree with Antoine because that was my livelihood. I had stopped working at the post office. The only thing that I did was cook and do life insurance and investment. So my focus was bringing a steady income in through life insurance and investment. So that was my time. I had to spend that time trying to either bring new clientele in, getting my team together, getting them to bring clients in. So there was a imbalance in there, but it wasn't because I was just out screwing off. I'm not one of them ones. I don't club. I don't think I like to do is travel and go fishing. But I wasn't even doing those things because I was focused on building my business. So I get what they're saying, and I agree with that 100%. You have to be focused on what you're trying to do, and that person has to add value. But going back to what I said, that also means having a partner that's going to add that value and be understanding. That good communication. If you know what I'm doing, I'm not out there screwing off. I'm not out there trying to talk to no females or sleeping around, stuff like that. I'm handling business. Then the understanding has to be there that, okay, he's handling business. Let me see where I can either help or get out of the way. That has to be how it is. Otherwise, you bring unnecessary stress into the relationship.
There you go, John. Agreed. I like that. That.
Lord.
Hey, who else want to jump on this? In what ways has finding balance between your relationship and other commitments impacted your relationship?
There's a lie calling in right now.
Holy.
So in what ways is finding balance of your relationship impact your relationship? I would say in the past, in previous relationships, the impact in finding balance usually results in somebody having a hobby and somebody not having one. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of breeds contempt, like with John's situation where he was describing right there. I've been there before. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got something that's a niche for you, and you could tell when the energy is supportive or not without having to, like delve too far into it. You could just tell when you're being supported. You could just tell when somebody's participating with you, and then the minute that they don't get on board, you already know what it is, and you're closer to getting what you're going after by working through your talents than trying to win the approval of somebody else who's trying to get at you through insecurities. So you can't allow yourself to be to get off track, to lose focus, because then everybody fails. And I think if you sit down and if you got the comprehension that's supposed to come from healthy conversation, it should not be the issue that it is. However, that's how you vet people, because everybody don't complete the whole journey, man. You know what I'm saying? And I think that over time, after you have these relationships that I've seen a lot of my friends who've raised their kids, and now they don't have anything with their significant other, with their wife, because everything that they poured into came, on behalf of the children. And then now they don't have anything that they participate in. They've grown completely apart, and if you pay attention kind of to streaming services, a lot of relationship shows that come out talking about these things where people have gotten older, trying to find, some sort of community because the kids don't, kick it with them like that. and they're just trying to find out who they are identity wise. I think that's why you got to definitely keep your hands on something that ties you to creation, something that comes out of your head, something that eventually comes out of your hands, and you have to be of service because you don't want to be dead in the water, without developing a skill. You fail to adapt. You know what I'm saying? So if you end up being useless, if you're in a relationship that renders you useless and neuters you, and puts your hand behind your back, that's an unhealthy situation.
But nobody, no one, not even a woman or relationship, no one is worth your livelihood. I mean, I don't understand why that's even a topic. Like, why would anybody's time worth my livelihood? Put a cork in it and get over it. No.
Hey,
if I have priorities, and what did they say in an airplane? Put your mask on first before helping somebody else, because you're no good to helping somebody else if you're passing out. And I don't see why people, or even men, if you're going to lead. I am in there producing work so you can have the vacation, the car, and the house you want. You're going to get my time, but it comes after the priorities that we have been settled. My deadline is not your deadline. You're not the one on the phone. You're not the one staying up late. My deadline is not your deadline. The most you can do is make me coffee. And I don't understand why women think they can come in. If you have an established business, you can be an accountant. You can tell me the numbers. But when the deal's across the table, I just need you to come in with a plate and leave, because this is where it matters. Now, when it comes to the household, your personal life, she needs to have that quiet time with you. That's totally fine. But you need to create that umbrella for her. I mean, I don't even understand why men would think of sacrificing their time for the whole I love you crap. You can't take that to the bank and pay the bills. And yet they want to chase a man that's 100K and doing all this. 100K, you know what? I bust my ass. What are you talking about? When men are making 100K, or they're above the average guy.
Hey, come back.
But Antoine, I think I think the whole thing is, when you say you have deadlines and you're an entrepreneur and things like that,
holy freak.
Being an entrepreneur is different than having a job. And people think that simply because you don't have to report somebody and punch a clock, that you have all of this time. It's a misconception. That's why a lot of women think that entrepreneurs have all of this time, when in fact, entrepreneurs work harder than dudes that have a 9-to-5, because they have to maintain that business because it's their business. So it's difficult. You know what I'm saying? It's a common misconception. I get what you're saying. Your livelihood should always come first. And to keep it real, like I said in the beginning, your livelihood and doing what you're doing attracted her in the first place. You shouldn't stop what you're doing for her. But there's this big misconception that entrepreneurs have time. And the fact of the matter is, like John said, entrepreneurs work 25/8. They're always working. Even when they're not working, they're working. You understand what I'm saying?
Even if you're at a 9-to-5, and the boss says, hey, I need you to stay an extra 8 hours. Honey, we need the overtime. Click. That's all that's coming out of your mouth. Put my food on a grill.
That's the difference between an entrepreneur and a 9-to-5. An entrepreneur can exactly. But you don't need it. But a 9-to-5 is tied to a boss. An entrepreneur is the boss. You understand what I'm saying? So I understand this is why I understand where you're coming from when you're talking about livelihood. But even still, there still has to be some type of balance to incorporate the woman that you're dating. But that comes after your livelihood. That's where I agree with you.
Hold on, Pastor. Coach had his mic on mute. I wanted to get to him first before I swing back over to you.
Again, I'm translating. So you're going to find that everything I'm saying is going right back to what I said previously, because priorities again drive decisions. When I was in the Army, and I'm just going to use this quick story real quick. When I was in the Army, of course, being at Fort Hood, being in an armored cavalry division, we're going in and out of the field constantly. So I'm out in the field now, just to kind of, encapsulate this conversation in the great state of Texas. Once your child turns 13, they can stay home by themselves. I want to leave that there as I continue with the story. So I'm in the field, and every evening or so, I'm calling home, talking to the wife, checking on the kids, all that great stuff. But it's Saturday morning. So I said, you know what? We ain't really got nothing going on right now. I got about another hour before we got to do this thing. So let me just call and see how they're doing this morning. Because we normally had a routine that we do on Saturday morning. So when I called, my daughter answered the phone. At that point in time, she was 13. She said, well, mom's not home. I said, well, where's she at? She said, well, mom had a meeting, at an AKA meeting she had to go to. Okay. Now, mind you, my daughter was 13. My oldest daughter was 13. But then you had Tom and Jerry, my two youngest. And right, they were the ages of 6 and 3. So at this point in time, I'm kind of fuming because her response to me when I called her, she said, well, in Texas, we can leave them home by themselves. I said, yeah, but when she burned that mother to the ground, then what you going to tell them? You know what I'm saying? Just because you can don't mean that you should. So I use that story just to kind of set the conditions because, again, priorities drive decisions. I think a lot of times what you'll find is that there is a certain competition. And I think anybody who's ever been in the military and people who were married to soldiers in the military, unfortunately, the military is our livelihood. This is what we do. If the Army says, hey, we're going to send you from Texas to Georgia, guess what we're doing? We leave in Texas and we going to Georgia. That's just what it is. Sometimes what some people do is they try to find significance within that space separate from the priorities that we establish. So trying to hang out with the AKAs on the Saturday morning while I'm in the field. Now, if I was home, I'm good with it. But while I'm in the field, that should have been an easy decision to make, but it wasn't for her, right? Because she wanted, and she literally told me, she said, I want to be able to establish my brand and leave my legacy. And I looked at her and I was like, I was stunned. I couldn't speak because I know what my mind was saying. I was like, no, you shouldn't say that. And I think that's where we are. We need to understand that priorities drive decisions. It's not about the me show. And if you're in a relationship or situationship, whatever you want to call it these days, right? If you're in a thing that involves somebody else, don't put forth the energy and efforts to be the most significant person in that situationship. What we need to understand is that the most important person in that relationship is neither person in the relationship. If you believe like I believe, it's Christ right down the center. If Christ is the center, then you believe in that. If you don't believe in Christ, I'm okay with that. But priorities is the relationship. So once you sit down and you have that hard conversation about where we're going, what we're going to do, and where we're striving to obtain, like how we're going to raise children, like all of those things are the discussion piece. Then once we make that decision, then those things are the things that drive decisions. Should we come back and revisit it at a later point in time? Absolutely, because situations change, people change. And maybe at that particular point in time, you may be feeling a little different. But again, if one person is trying to be the person of significance outside of the previous agreement, I think that's where a lot of these problems come in at.
I would agree, and I can ditto a lot of that conversation or or situation. Mine was similar to that too. It's like, they wanted their independence and yada yada yada. But finding the balance between relationship and other commitments and how it has impacted my relationship. I think it has made me um more dialed in. So like now, like I'm really scheduled and routine oriented. So like I said before, like my wife has access to my Google Calendar, so she can see when I have things going on. And what it does for me, it allows me and her to see space in our calendar where we can put in things to where we can intentionally spend time together. You know what I mean? Or there may be a break. Like this morning, we sat in the bed for 2 hours and finished binge watching the show. You know what I mean? We may put something in there for like the movies on the Saturday. So like, even though I'm like Antoine too, it's like at the end of the day, if you're in a traditional relationship or to where you have is one person is the major breadwinner, like Coach said, you have to protect. That there's the priority there too. Because like Antoine said, if I'm missing work because I'm hanging out with you, or we spending money on vacations, And now, that's setting us back from being able to put money down on a house payment or down payment, or trying to get something paid off earlier than, me spending time with her, or spending that time and or money with her could be affecting the overall goal or the vision for the whole family. So it's like, you have to make sure that when you do these things, that they are clearly articulated and communicated with between the other person. You know what I mean? And if there's a change in the plan, then someone needs to communicate that, So that's kind of sort of where I stand on it. And how has it impacted me? It just made me a little bit more dialed in. And it actually impacted me in a positive way, not in a negative way. You know what I mean? It's just more dialed in. It's just a lot easier because we have that balance too.
Okay, I wanted to say something too, and I've learned this. You hit the nail on the head for me when it comes to the calendar. I've learned, being an entrepreneur, you got to utilize your calendar. It's something that's very beneficial. It keeps you organized without having.
Yeah, because she can't read your mind.
Yeah,
she don't know all this different stuff you got going on.
Yeah,
that's why we talk
and talk. You do both. But that calendar help when we have the conversation, and then someone forgets that there was a commitment that was previously talked about and accepted 2 months ago. So that's where the calendar comes in to support the conversation. I think it's both, not necessarily.
You imagine you had an instant replay in your relationship, and you threw a challenge flag, and they go point to that damn board or that calendar. Oh man.
I would say a lot of women do already have that. Because you'll forget about something that happened 10 years ago, 8 years ago, and they'll bring it back up. You was like, man,
you remember when you did this?
I forgot all about that. I was like, what? You remember that? Like,
you remember January 2nd at 10 o'clock p.m. You was supposed to be in the bed. Yeah, I haven't been through that.
Triggered.
Hey, so here's what we're going to wrap up with. We'll kind of go to the next question. Is, this ain't the final thoughts, but what advice would you have for others who are trying to find the right balance of time in their relationship? And we don't even have to keep it on just a man woman heterosexual relationship. It can be any type of relationship with your kids, relationship with your homeboys, or whoever you decide you want to talk about is okay. Pastor, you got something down there? You unmuted.
I was going to agree with Chris. I was going to agree with Coach. With his theory, I'm going to say the theory, right, Coach? I'm going to say the theory of priority drives the decision. Did I write that? Did I quote that right? Okay, that right there. Not saying that's a good second level to your baseline. Like if you was building a pyramid, that right there would be a good next. That'd be a good one. Because if you can keep that priority in mind, your feelings shouldn't get involved. Emotions shouldn't get involved. You should definitely want to get an understanding, not on what you're saying, but what are we trying to accomplish? So that runs right back into what Unc was talking about with the calendar. See, I wrote that down too. Unc and the calendar. So even with that, your wife, right? You and your wife decided to say, hey, this is a calendar. Let's going to use this. This is our plan. Well, guess what? I tried the calendar. That didn't work for me because either I would forget to put stuff on the calendar or she would forget to put stuff on the calendar. And then we would forget to look at each other's calendars because it's changing so much in our industries. So the calendars didn't work for me only because we are both adding and taking away. By me being a pastor, I can say at 5 o'clock, I'm not doing anything. And at 5:35, I can get a phone call and I got to run to the hospital because somebody's son just got, hurt or whatever. Or so it changes. But the priority is that my husband is still a pastor and he's still there for the people. So, hey, I understand. goes back to what Antoine was saying. That's my husband's livelihood. He is a pastor, so he, that's kind of where he needs to be at. The family got
Y'all had to talk about that. Y'all had to there was a conversation that was held before then. So if a phone call comes at 5:35, it's not an issue.
It's not new information that
It's
nobody.
not new information,
Well,
correct?
this is the thing,
And you
though.
still have to communicate it. Say, hey, babe, I got to roll out. Something happened at the hospital.
Right. Well, so I do two things. One, I would say this: what helped me, or what I think, because I got to go back and ask in there, because y'all gonna maybe go back and ask in there, because I'm gonna go back and make sure before I say this, because I don't want to be a lie on millions of people watching this and come back and hold it to me later. So what I'm saying is, I first of all, I want to say I thank Bishop Long, right? Because
Eddie
that was
Long?
her pastor, Bishop Eddie Long. That was her pastor for 20-something plus years. She's been a member of New Birth for 20-something plus years. So he said the way he moved outside of the pulpit, she witnessed firsthand. She was considered to be one of his daughters. So, it wasn't like, hey, you in the audience. It was, hey, daughter, hey, dad. So they had that type of relationship. So because they had that type of relationship, she knows now if my husband is moving in this pastoral, I kind of know what comes with this. And it's not something we can have a talk about. It's just, once again, an understanding and the priority. His goal is to be, being a pastor, his priority is the people. Whether his members or not, he's there. So that's why I say, I get the calendar. I wish the calendar would work for me. It just doesn't. Like, I've tried. I have tried the calendar. And maybe I tried again, but it just didn't work because of both of our schedules. So I think Coach said it. We can put, if we was building a pyramid, we can put that as a second level of trying to come. If we had to give an answer at the end of this thing and give somebody a blueprint, we can definitely put that down. We can definitely put prioritizing, priority drives. Now, I'll say this. I see Chris shaking his head. The only reason I would say that, Chris, is because...
No, I'm not shaking my head at you. I'm shaking my head at the private chat. Y'all have no sense.
Okay, I didn't even look at that. So that's why I said,
don't look at it.
I get that. I get the priority drives the decision. I listen. I'm going to steal that. I'm just letting you know, Coach. I'm going to look. I wrote it down. I'm going to steal it. I'm letting you know. I'm stealing it. Letting you know.
I want to jump in on that. And I get calendar don't work for everybody, but I will say this. See, you shouldn't have opened the private chat. He told you not to open the private.
You brought him up. I was like, why are you bringing up this dude?
You should have
What
never
is
said
wrong
that.
with
Set me
y'all?
up.
Hey,
Set me
y'all
up.
know how it goes. But I did want to say this. The calendar don't work for everybody, but I will say this. We all have cell phones. Cell phones are nothing more than computers, laptops, tablets. They're everything in one. We do have memos, reminders, note stuff that you can put on your calendar or as reminders on your phone. That does benefit as well. I utilize it when I set appointments to sit down and do a presentation and talk to somebody about insurance. I set it for birthdays. I set it for just reminders of when certain bills may be due. I set it for just different things. Calendars can be beneficial in different manners. But like you said, it may not work for everybody because everybody doesn't have the type of lifestyle where it'll fit. So I do agree with that. But I think one of the things that everybody was kind of hitting the head on is having that understanding when you communicate with each other. That I think that's going to be the key. If you have an understanding and you can communicate with what's going on with the right partner, they're going to understand that, okay, just like in the pastor's place, he get that phone call, it's got to be some understanding. This is not like Vic said, this ain't new information. You knew that my role as a pastor is, if I get one of those phone calls, it's my responsibility as a leader to be there. So I get that. And that applies in everybody's life. we all have those things that may come up. You can schedule time with your wife, you can schedule time with your girlfriend, you can schedule time with your partners, you can schedule time with anybody, and things come up. The reality is this: if the right people, and Uncle Junior, you said something on one of my posts where I talked about not having the right people around. When you got the right people around, some things don't even have to be communicated. You know, if I tell you, just like me not being on the last 2 shows, I've been dealing with my own little issues, medical issues. It wasn't there was no animosity when you asked me what was going on. It was a concern of, hey, what you got going on? And that's why I say, with the right people around you, some things don't have to be discussed. You already know, hey, if he ain't here, something going on. Let me check and see what's going on. I got a partner, my business partner called me today just to check on me. He didn't even know what was going on, but he called to check on me because he know he hadn't heard from me. When you got the right people around you, whether that's partners, the right family members around, the right relationships, period, they're going to understand. There's an open line of communication. I can tell you what's going on, or you can say, okay, something ain't right. Let me check on my folks, and they'll be understanding. If we supposed to be getting together, we supposed to be going to have drinks, we supposed to be having a business meeting. Understanding between each other, you're gonna be like, okay, if he ain't show up, something going on, let me check. And I think that's one of the keys in any relationship, is having understanding that my life ain't gonna be a straight line every day.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I definitely agree with that. So who else, man? What are some other advice that you would have for people that are trying to find the right balance of time in their relationships? I know, like I said, for me, like one of the things is the calendars. Like that's one of the things that I use. Like I said, but like what Coach said, having a conversation. So like if I put something on the calendar, like there's a conversation or a text message, or there's dialogue between the two of us about what's on the calendar. And then there's changes. Like anytime that we have changes in our schedules, like we let each other know, like, because those changes may affect someone else's schedule too. And I'm saying scheduling calendar, but it's not like that strict. You know what I mean? It's just, I just throw stuff on there and she throws stuff on there. But like I said, 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, there's a conversation that's had along with that. So like I said, for us, it's just scheduling time and putting things on the calendar for us. So whereas we have the business part of our relationship, and then we have the intimate or the personal part of our relationship in our lives as well. And I think sometimes you have to put things on the calendar in order to make sure that these things happen, because sometimes we can get so involved in what we have going on that we sometimes forget to look across the table, pun intended, at our partner and see that, hey, you know what I mean?
What you did
like,
there.
yeah. And be like, you know what? When was the last time we went to the movies? When was the last time we did something else? And this comes back to our own, you know, as men and as leaders in our household, is to make sure that we are helping, you know what I mean? That we are supporting, that we're trying to continue to grow our relationship. Because yes, in one sense, we have our business, but at the same time, if you chose the right partner, you're gonna want to spend time with them. You're gonna want to be around them. You know what I mean? And you're gonna want their relationship to last for the longevity as well. So you're gonna want to put into that relationship. So it's important that you find time to put into it that doesn't take away from your time of trying to put a roof over your head and cover the things that you need to inside of the household.
Don't be so busy making a living that you forget to live.
That's true too, but I would say to anybody out there, I would say make sure nothing compromises your livelihood. Make sure you don't do nothing to compromise your livelihood. That comes first, because you ain't no good to nobody if you don't even have a roof over your own head. That's all. Prioritize that. Everything else can come afterwards. Now, if it's a life and death situation, emergency in the hospital, obviously you're not going to say, wait till I finish painting this section. I'm just saying that should be a priority. Your income, your livelihood, everything else should be balanced afterwards. Now, she met you the way you were. I believe strongly in communication because I'm a communicator guy. I have a calendar, so it's easy to look at. But the whole compromise thing, I ain't doing none of that. This is it. This is how it is. And I think that once you prioritize how you operate, she either like it or don't. We ain't coming together to find time. This is when I can find time. This is when the time is good. And I'm just saying, handle your business. You want to lead? Lead. You want to lead? Lead. That's how it is.
Who else got some? Who else got something on this?
Hey, I just want to I'm sorry, man, I'm still laughing. So I like what you guys are saying with the calendar, and I agree. The calendar, like Pastor said, doesn't work for them. It's not going to work for everybody. It's very difficult to project manage people, and that's why I stress the piece of, the conversation piece, right? When you get to the point that we're so fixed to a calendar, we just turned our relationship into a business. That's dangerous, right? So it's not that the calendar is bad, it's the conversation that doesn't make the calendar bad. For me, I put things on my calendar, but it's only the things that are non-compromisable. I will not compromise those times. Friday at 8 p.m. is a non-compromisable feed. You can schedule whatever you want to schedule. If it's at 8 p.m., you're going to schedule it without me. That's just what it is. And that is known up front. That's just one of those things. Saturday mornings is non-compromisable. That's when I deal with my clients. So I can't compromise that. And like Pastor said, I can't even talk about what we talk about. So you just need to understand that that block of time is off the table. That's just it. Don't ask me any questions about it. I can't share anything about it. It is what it is. And there are some things in life that's the answer. It is what it is. I think I think in conjunction with that, when it comes down to trying to find a balance of time in the relationship, spend more time connecting yourself with the right person, and this becomes less of a task. I think that's the key to go ahead, Pastor. I see you. Go ahead, bro. No, go ahead. Okay. But I think that's the key, right? We spend more time connecting ourselves with the right person, then this does not be such a heavy lift. I don't have to, like you gave a perfect example about, your wife's background, right? Her background leads to the maturity that you need in your life at this particular point in time. So I don't have to have those conversations. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. To I see certain people, they may struggle, like they got to argue because blah, 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 this, that, and the third. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about, because in the human services community, there's a code of ethics that you must adhere to. That if you compromise that could literally get you moved out of the space that you exist in. So that has to be understood up front. And if it's not understood, then you're going to run into issues with it. So again, spend time connecting yourself with the right person. Therefore, trying to find the right balance isn't such a hard deal. Then you put the non-compromisables on your calendar and then talk about everything else, right? Make it intentional to spend time with the person, but also make it intentional that priorities is the focus. I can't stress that enough.
Move your typing away, man. But
I thought Pastor had something, man. He was over there just
I thought Pastor had something too, man.
I was waiting on him.
I did, but I read the side note, so I didn't want to. I want to say this because it's not my final thought. But listen, you said something that I think that will make Antoine and Chris, like, they're going to be this is not like a shade. This is actually a great thing, right? And the reason I'm saying is because I counsel a lot of people who don't have this thing that I'm getting ready to say. Y'all not going to compromise, right? So the women that y'all meet or the women that goes with y'all is either going to understand your industry, not really understand you, but they're going to understand your industry. I hope that makes sense. Like I said, like my wife, I don't understand.
Not understanding what I am, but understanding what I do, so that way she can figure out a way to. I get what you're saying.
Being complimentary versus supplementary.
That
if you don't understand me, why would I be with
you? Not being an obstacle, man.
I get what you. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, when I say I'm not going to compromise, what I'm saying is, don't ask me to give up my livelihood just to sit up under you. Now, if you're going to help me in my livelihood, so that way we have more time with each other, then that's different. That's that cohesive unit that I was talking about that you and your wife have.
Absolutely.
I just haven't come across that yet.
Participation is the language of a healthy relationship too. If you can't find a way to participate with each other, it's not going to work, especially when you got an entrepreneur involved. Participate, don't
Help
serve
or
free.
get your ass out the way.
Well, that's the whole thing.
I say that every Friday.
When I first met my wife, she was already doing it, but I was already a project manager for another city, for another municipality. So when we met, I understood her position, I understood her job, and I understood what she was trying to accomplish. So now we're married, and me as her project manager, she baffles me at work, but I realized her name is on the bottom of the paychecks for some of these guys. So the way her mind works at work is different, because she is her name is at the bottom of that check when they go cash it on the weeks. So I get it, but I get that part, which makes me understand everything else. So I think when the coach was talking about that, like, you gotta find that person who is in tune with you and what you do and actually care about what you do or what your livelihood is, then I think when Chris do find that one, she's going to understand the way art people think, move, groove. She already going to understand the deadlines that he's under, the pressures he's under. So she's not going to add to that in a negative way. You see what I'm saying? Because she's
what woman can't read deadlines? What are you talking about, dude? What woman can't read deadlines? What woman can't see you're busy? I don't need her to understand what I do. I don't even want her to understand what I do. She knows the better, because she won't interrupt me. I don't know what you're talking about. Unless woman knows what I do, the better. Know your role. It ain't in there. That's it. It ain't there.
I'm saying
you're acting like she has. No. First of all, even if I was a project manager, I wouldn't work for my wife. Hell no. I don't want to see you 24/7. I see you enough. I want to do what I do as a man, just like I wouldn't want my woman in the gym with me. I don't want her in the same gym. I don't want her near the gym. I want to do what I do. I need a space away from you. You're acting like
that's what I'm saying, Antoine.
Hey,
Coach, translate for me.
No.
Like, whoa. You're out
I don't
to
say
lunch.
that she's got to know and be involved in your business. I'm saying if she understands what the art world is in entirety, okay, hold on, I'm dealing with an artist, she's already going to respect that. She don't got to say, I'm not saying she's going to come and hold your paintbrush and all that. What I'm saying is, if she understands the art world, right?
No, she doesn't need to understand the art world. She needs to know she plays a role in my life. She doesn't need to understand the art world.
Hold on, Antoine. You look. This the bottom line. This the bottom line, and Coach started out with this. Yeah. Every aspect of a relationship is not going to fit everybody. So what works for you may not work for Pastor. What he's speaking to is his own position. You can't tell that man I understand that what your position is, that's your position. But what works for him is working. So that's why
I said to him. That's why I said to him.
The thing is, go back and watch the video.
No,
you can't disagree with somebody that's working for them.
This just
but when he says she needs to understand the art, no, she doesn't. Just like if she was a high-tech doctor in a thing, I don't need to understand her doctor stuff.
But I said she needs to. You missing the point. There's no point
to miss. You guys are out. You guys sound.
Let me say this. I think
you guys need to ask your women for your balls back. Tell her I want my balls back. I want to put them between my legs. I want my balls back. You're not leading. You guys are trying to share a nut.
I think what they're saying, Antoine, is that they're not saying that your wife needs to know about art. They're saying that if they understand more about your art in your life, then they can be more able to support you in it. You don't have to worry about her coming in and interrupting you when your red light is on. You don't have to worry about her asking you, hey, can we go to the movies at 10 o'clock? Because she already know that that's your time to work. So that's what they were saying, is that if
Antoine,
she
why
knows
you come
more
on
about,
when it's
if
right?
she doesn't have to, like you said, but if she knows more about your job and your profession and what you do, she can support you more by not doing things that you don't need her or want her to do.
That's when you
That was my
communicate that
interpretation.
with her. That's when
Exactly.
you have a conversation with her. You
What
have
we're
that
trying to tell
in-depth,
Antoine, that's
you
what
have
we've been
that
talking about the whole
in-depth
time.
conversation.
That's what we've been talking about the whole time, Antoine.
Yeah, but to say that, you know, why would I be with a woman that doesn't? But
It's gonna come in a blow up doll. It's gonna be
Vic,
a little
why, Vic? Why would I be with a woman that doesn't understand me? Why would I even entertain that thought? Obviously, I'm going to explain my world to her. Obviously, she's going to see what I do. Obviously, she's going to know how to read a calendar. Obviously, she's going to know what deadlines is. She's going to know where she fits in. But there's no way. I don't need her to understand. The less she knows, the better.
How do you measure your relationship criteria right now?
As in what? Compared to what?
Is your relationship criteria effective?
No. I mean, as in, I'm not in a relationship, if that's what you're asking.
Thank you.
Shit.
Just because I'm not in a relationship, what does that have to do with anything? That's ridiculous. That's nonsense talk. It's like you guys are acting like, why? Because my lifestyle, I can't get it. Sure, I can get a woman. Any man can get a woman if they really want one. It's not hard.
Antoine.
Right? Not a woman that I'm looking for. That's different.
Antoine, what we're saying is this. What we're saying is this. We're not saying she's going to come in and try to take over what you're doing. That's not what we're saying. But what we're saying is, if you and her are together and she's in tune with you and she knows that you're in this art world and you have these deadlines and you have these things that you need to do, she's going to find ways to help you outside of that, so that way you can better do what you need to do in the art world. We're not saying that she's going to come in and compromise anything. If anything, she's going to try to make your life easier, so that way you can concentrate more on that livelihood. That's what we're saying.
What I'm saying is that's a conversation you will have in depth with her way before she even moves in. She even has suggestions. You would have to have that communication. I don't understand what's so hard to communicate that. If she's a doctor and she's into what she does, I know the medical field. I'm going to say, honey, do what you need to do. Go save a life. I will be here and the dinner will be warm.
If you listen, if you guys listen, you're saying the same thing.
You're saying the same thing. Ironically, this is about a lack of comprehension. We've all said the same thing. Nobody is saying nothing, you know what I'm saying, derogatory. You're the only person saying get our balls back out of the purse.
You guys are talking like that.
But you don't even have a skirt in your house.
Like
that can validate none of your relationship criteria. So you're speaking from something that you haven't experienced.
I've had relationships and they didn't work out. And I've even said openly, I went the extreme. I wanted a successful life and I went the extreme. That wasn't a priority. Fucking was, but not the woman. That wasn't a priority. I'm just saying, if a woman's coming in,
how does your relationship criteria validate your current situation?
If my current situation is now I could lead, I can provide. I don't even need her to work. I got my life in order. I don't need her to come in with any issues. None of that, because I'm not handling any of that shit.
Hold on. Hey, Antoine. Let's finish this after the show. Let's finish this after the show.
That's unbelievable, boy. Whew.
Hey, that's a good opportunity to segue into the final thought. So let's roll, John. The mic is all yours, my brother.
I had already, when you posted in the chat, who was gonna go first, I had already kind of made my mind. Coach and Pastor had kind of given the benediction. I'll say this: we all have kind of basically said the exact same things. The keys being communication and comprehension, which is something that some of us lack. It's one of those things where we just need to communicate clearly from the beginning. I understand from Pastor's perspective, he's speaking as a married man. Speaking as a married man, even Vic speaking as a married man, the conversation is going to be different, because a married man and a single man gonna have two different conversations unless they've been in that position. So I can't speak to someone that's I've been married, so I can speak as a person that's been married, but I can't speak as a married person because I'm no longer married. But the understanding is there. Comprehension and communication is one of the keys when it comes to realizing what the times are. You know, what are we going to do? When are we going to do it? Those things have to be communicated and understood, that these times I have to dedicate to my livelihood. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with, you know, working hard, dedicating time to your work. But while you're working or making a living, you can't forget that you need to live as well. That's something that I've been told on a regular basis, because I don't do anything now. I just kind of focus on working, but it's because of the goals that I've set I haven't accomplished. But being in a relationship, I feel like you have to be able to communicate what you're doing. There has to be an understanding. And as Pastor said, we and I think we all said, you've got to be with the right person. The right person is going to just mesh. I commend Pastor for having a wife that he meshes with. That's something that I would aspire to have, because I do want to have somebody that I mesh with that understands that, my business is something that I want to be successful, not just for me, but for my kids, because it's their future that I'm working on. I want to make sure that they have something that if I leave here today, that they can actually utilize or benefit from. So my mentality or my thoughts are just communicate, work on your communication, work on your understanding as well. Make sure that you're listening to understand and not listening to respond. That's a problem that a lot of people have, and we saw that tonight. But listening to understand, I think that'll be my final thoughts. And one lastly but not least, like I said, if you either you're gonna help or you're gonna get your ass out the way.
I am back. So I'm simple. I am agreeing with Coach. I think we've all said the same thing. I think prioritizing and the priority driving the decision, keeping that goal in mind, taking out your feelings and your emotions and your perspectives. You know, people who know me closely know that I don't argue with perspectives. Because it's nothing that I can do. Like I cannot argue with your perception. So if you stick to the goal in mind, stick to the priority, stick to what's important, and then let that be the guide point. And once that's accomplished, then you two sit down and come up with y'all's next thing or this next project. And once that project is done, go to the next. But just keep the feelings out of it, emotions out of it, keep the perspective out of it, and keep before you the priority. That's all I have. Thanks, Coach, for giving me that.
Oh boy. I guess I was listening for the most part because, like I said, I haven't been in a dating situation or a relationship where time wasn't a factor in a negative fashion, being that I work so much. So I guess my advice would be to be upfront and honest about what you do, how you do it, how much you're going to do it, how much you need to do it, and then figure things out from there. It's all about honest communication, to be real. And I think that if we can find a way to actively communicate and actively listen and comprehend each other, we can find a way to mesh so that way we don't interfere with each other's livelihoods. We actually find ways to make our life outside of the livelihood better so that way we can go into our livelihood with more so that way we can keep that livelihood going. Everybody already said it. It's all about communication and comprehension. But I think comprehension is the biggest part of it. You have to literally understand and not actually listen just to have a clever rebuttal about what they're saying. Um, just find a way to work cohesively. One thing isn't better than the other. One person isn't better than the other. And don't try to come in between somebody's livelihood just because you feel like you're not getting enough attention or time, because that's a selfish way to go about things. Communication, comprehension, and letting go of the ego and being selfless. That's pretty much all I got.
I will say this. For every man out there, every young kid coming up, listen, I don't know what world you living in, but in reality, you have to pay bills, right? You have to prioritize your time that gives you the livelihood you want. That's it. Everything else is secondary. I've said it time and time again. I over prioritized on one side, and I can actually say in my life today, the one that got away. Okay, that being said, I don't believe in crying over spilt milk. It happened. Next, move on. But in today, if you want, everything in this modern world today revolves around people wanting the bag, people wanting the lifestyle. People want a good life, right? And in order to get a good life, being wealthy, being rich, being successful comes at a sacrifice. It comes at a sacrifice. And if you're not willing to make that sacrifice, get the 9-to-5 job, enjoy yourself, have the white picket fence, and go home and do what you need to do. But if you want a certain lifestyle and you don't want the headaches of medical bills or how much is going to cost, that comes at a price. I say prioritize that first because you can't do nothing else without it. All right? You can't. I don't want this. In my life, didn't want the stress of, and I don't think anybody should want the stress of how am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay that? Now, there is a sense of balance. And like I said, I believe in that, right? But the balance comes after your main priority, your main things that you have to handle, the main things that you have to lead with is taken care of. And that's what people need to understand. Ask yourself, what lifestyle do you want? Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. And go after what you want. But that's going to be you're going to have to sacrifice. Period. And if somebody's coming into, listen, I would say this. It's great being at peace. When you know yourself, you're not working your issues out and doing all that bullshit. The only thing I'm thinking about is where is it coming from? What's my next thing? How can I better myself? How can I grow? Things that are positive in that direction. I wouldn't bring madness. I wouldn't bring compromise into my life. I ain't bringing none of that shit. Fuck that shit. No, I'm doing well without it. But I would like to have a good family and I would like to have a good kids. And the woman that comes into my life, I will have that conversation with her way before she moves in. We ain't doing the baby mama thing. We ain't doing any of that shit. No, we're going to have a good, decent conversation. You're going to know what kind of man I am. And I'm going to know what kind of woman you are. And we're going to see if that works. If it doesn't work, great. We know where we stand. But you need a woman that complements what you do, just like you can complement what she does and give her all the things that she wants. But the last thing you want, one of the number one things people break up over is finances. Besides the other thing, but there's finances. That's the number one thing people break up over. I don't want to be in that circle. And I wouldn't want my wife or my girlfriend or my significant other to be in that circle. I like a woman that has a career. Me personally, I like a woman that has a career. That means you don't have fucking time to bother me, right? But we'll come together and we'll compromise and make things happen when we prioritize children, the life, the hood, all that sort of good stuff. We'll put it under an umbrella and say, okay, how do we make this life work now? So if you have to stop working, I'm good. If I have to stop working, you're good. And I would say everybody should prioritize. First, do what you need to do, accomplish what you need to accomplish so you can lead and do all that good stuff. So you can be in a position to dictate or say what you want to say and how it's going to be. And find someone that complements that. Done.
Well, as usual, Antoine is so hard to follow. And man, mute your mic. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else muted theirs. All right, so I'm gonna lean on, like, I wrote this thing called Accountable Masculinity Rule Number 3, and it's decentralized leadership. It's basically knowing when to lead and when to follow. And a lot of the conversation is about compromise, and knowing when to lead and when to follow is compromise. It's actual submission and understanding that you don't have a partner to help you fail. So sometimes it's okay to just listen to your partner. They're taking something off your plate. In that, you're going to experience some emotions, as a man, especially one that leads and one that's in charge of a few different things that has networks and people depending on it. And one of those things you got to avoid doing is, number one, being defensive. You cannot hear what the person is trying to communicate if you're being defensive. And then when you can hear, you can listen to comprehend instead of to respond. All of these two things, if you do that, it helps you avoid an unhealthy competition. An unhealthy competition means, like, if you're right, what do you win? What's the benefit of it? Why would you cut your nose, spite your face, just so you can be right? And a lot of times people care more about being right than being righteous. Let's see here. Support our ideas with the time you've invested in creating for the health of your relationship. Why bring her along if you don't, and you've invested in her and she's investing in you so you can be successful? You got to create time and create a reciprocal relationship so it's worth her while as well. All of this is about ego management. You know what I'm saying? Ego management is paramount. I have to pull myself back. I got multiple personalities like everybody else. We can be moody, we can be up, we can be down, and we affect people around us when we are responsible for leading. We can't just diminish the fact that we are leading, so it comes with certain stress, but everybody doesn't have to deal with our chaos too. We are not perfect. If she's participating, she's comprehending your vision. If she's participating with you, she's comprehending your vision. In that relationship where comprehension becomes the goal, you got to start to be able to hear her better too, because she's dedicated the energy to understanding what you're about and to find out who your inner workings are. And all of this comes back to knowing when to be complimentary versus supplementary. Knowing when to stand up, knowing when to sit down, knowing when to watch the door, and knowing when to, give an early warning for your partner. If you can follow that part of what I'm saying, you are definitely in line with accountable masculinity rule number 1. Men focus on men. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, she's going to see it. And if you live a transparent life, she's going to find a way to augment you in a great way if she's there for a healthy reason. And that's my moment for accountable masculinity.
Got caught up.
I did. As you can see, I'm halfway finished with this bottle of Kvass. I'm joking. So some of the things I'm about to say may sound similar to what Vic said, but I think I'm gonna say it in a different way. Um, a long time ago, probably about in the '80s, there was a young man named Junior, not Uncle Junior, but Junior, and he wrote a song called "My Mama Used to Say," and the next lyric after that said, "Take your time, young man." I think we need to get out of this microwave mentality to where we meet a person and next thing you know, we believe that we're in love, and the next thing you know, we're engaged and trying to get married. Take your time to learn the other person. In the midst of learning, for me, and I want to make sure I say it this way, and I think this is something that should be a blanket statement, really. We need to learn to avoid needy people. That's number one, right? I think that's the key to understanding. The Bible says that God will provide all of your needs according to his riches and glory. Well, if a person places their needs on you, they have just made you their God. They have literally put you in a position to where you can do where they believe that you can do the impossible. You can't fix anybody. It's not your job to fix anybody. So again, avoid needy people, avoid overly emotional and sensitive people. I think that's important, and that's important to understand as well. Overly emotional and sensitive people will always emotionalize any and everything that you have to say. But the minute that they become overly emotional about anything that you say logically, it doesn't make sense to them, and they will always respond to emotions. So again, avoid those people. You're looking for a person that shares in the same type of belief system that gets you closer to the concept of being what is known as equally yoked. For me, I can't tie myself to a person who does not believe in God. That's first and foremost. Secondly, under that umbrella, I need to understand at what level do we share in that belief system, because everybody who say they believe, they don't really believe everything. So we need to make sure that we understand, and the only way I'm going to understand that is if I take the time to learn the person under the umbrella of the union that comes together between two people. We need to understand that the relationship is all about cooperation, right? So we co-op, right? So we are cooperating, right? So we are combining our efforts for the operation of our relationship. So cooperation. So there are a couple of things under there that we have to understand. First, understanding is paramount, right? Which means that you need to be able to decipher the person if the person that you're talking to can are they logically injecting themselves into the plan that you have for their life? Can they see themselves in your plan? How are they adding value to your plan? Are they collectively dreaming with you? Can they see the vision? That's really what we're getting at. I think that's important, and that goes in understanding. Secondly, is participation. They need to actively participate in the vision, right? Helping you build what you've already started working on. Here's one of the things that I know is true, that when you cast a vision, she would take it and she will make it bigger. She will incubate it and make it bigger. It's happened time and time again, and it is a natural thing, believe it or not. So they take and they do what we tend to call dream elaboration, because my dream may simply just to own my own coaching business, but they may say, we can take this thing on a global scale and then start helping you identify what that looks like. This is all the things that help us to understand the ability to balance time and relationship, because part of that balance involves them seeing themselves in the workings of your dream and seeing themselves as an active member. If they can see themselves as an active member in your dream, then 9 times out of 10, they'll never feel like they need to go out and establish their own legacy separate from what you're doing. And lastly, I caution, and this is just my belief system, I caution against the idea that, well, I have my vision and they have their vision, and we come back and we just exist in space in the house. Well, really, at that point, like, what are we talking about? Because for me, a lot of my conversation about my vision, and my vision is centered around my belief system because it defines my purpose. So if I can't talk to you and see that we have literally parallel purposes, then what are we talking about? So I think that's it. I think that's where I want to leave it off with. And like I said, it sounds similar to what Vic said, but it's just from a different perspective.
Hold on. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I think it is important to make time for your partner and prioritize your relationship. However, I also think it is important to maintain a healthy balance and make time for yourself and your own personal interests and responsibilities. And like I said, I'll keep it short. That's all I had to say. Gentlemen, I really appreciate all of you guys' time, being up here today, being on the show. Thank you to everybody who's been in the chat, everybody who watched at home, all of the above. We will be back next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Um, what we got up here before we go? Coach over here, Friday night, Empowering Perspective podcast. Coach, if you don't mind, take a second to plug your show real quick before we roll out.
Yeah, man, you caught me in the middle of glass transition.
I know, man.
So
I know. My bad.
no, you're good. Empowering Perspective, promotes the Hearts of Men podcast on Friday nights. And Friday nights is all about, helping men, young men, mothers who raise boys whose fathers isn't active in their lives, who do not have a masculine support system in their life. This is a space where you have 4 or 5 men coming together and just sharing experiences and understanding and trying to better our community. Let's be honest, we did some things wrong in our generation. So in order for us to fix it, number one, we got to own the things that we did wrong, and we kind of got to share the learning, not necessarily the experience. We don't mind sharing our experience, and you'll find that when you join, but we want to share the learning. This conversation this week, this Friday, is all about dysfunctional parenting. So I said all that just to lead to that point. This conversation about dysfunctional parenting. Last week, dysfunctional relationship. The week prior, dysfunctional identity. Next week is all about dysfunctional elderly, because we don't respect the elders in our community anymore.
I like that. Hey, there were some other things that were said behind the scene. But I'm gonna give Vic an opportunity to either let the cat out of the bag or either share some of the things he got going on. If you want to reach out to Vic and see what he's doing or anything like that, Vic, take a minute or so to plug what you got going on.
Oh man, so I'm starting to do the audiobook for the code, and getting ready to build up for my next couple of pieces of literature and get into my writing shell and everything. Let me see. For the most part, that's it. I've been kind of like trimming down, but like just know that I got some more products on the way. Get ready for the spring and looking forward to 2023. And man, go cop the book. It's a lot of this stuff that we already discussing. There's a way that it makes complete and total sense, and it comes down to being able to have a conversation where we can comprehend each other. We all have different mesh points, and some of us don't cross the street at the same time, and that's okay. It's okay if we disagree. That's called a boundary, instead of not an invitation for conflict. So the main thing is that, hey, we got to know where our boundaries are, and we got to protect that. So hey, go on Amazon, cop the code, and check it out.
And Pastor Smith, where can people locate you for? I'm not exactly for sure exactly what services you offer. I don't know if you offer, drive-by church services, call-in prayer. I'm just being real. No, bro. Hey, look, I seen a drive-through church. I don't remember where I was.
I got pull-up sermons on you. Tell me where you at. I'll pull up on you. I give you a sermon. No, I'm joking. I got Bible studies. We have our Bible studies on Thursdays night, virtual. Tune in 8:00. I'm sorry, 7:00. We tune in for Bible study. Bible study is really kind of almost like this. Very talk, ask questions, have a conversation, get an understanding. That's on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Men's ministry every third Monday of the month, and it's pretty much situated the same way. Small groups. We got that for men and women. I'm like coach. I also do couples counseling, premarital counseling, divorce recovery. But no, just doing the whole pastor thing. Always give me reach through Facebook, Instagram, all the other good stuff. But man, like I said, I say it again. I said it last time. Say it again. Thank you guys for at least letting me be on here and just me be me. I know people see the title pastor and want to not be real with themselves, but I hope y'all know that I'm transparent just like you guys are, and I deal with the same things you guys deal with. So I just encourage anybody just to plug in and just keep going.
Amen. I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody come by here, man. Like I said, Pastor Smith, if you need to go see the bow tie fly, or if you think you should have bought a Hyundai, look them up on Amazon, Facebook, all those different things. Some of y'all got that. Anyway, we out, and we're going to see y'all next week.